Hello and welcome. It's Takeover Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm Brenden Martin. He's Rob Browne. Rob, we're once again commandeering the Buddy Martin Show. Welcome to the program. How are you tonight, sir?
I am doing great, man. Buddy having a little fun up in the mountains, and so
I don't know. We say he's on assignment, Rob.
Yeah, on assignment.
That's
a special assignment.
Special assignment.
But we're gonna bring the Gator Nation up to speed. We got Kyle Curtis, Franz Beard, Loren Meadows.
Yep.
Stacked lineup.
Stacked.
I mean, that is a stacked lineup.
We're going to be talking a little bit of track and Olympic trials. Which we're going to talk a little bit of that tonight with Loren. We're going to talk with Kyle a little bit, just sort of like hot topics, what's kind of going on, State of the Nation. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on right now with recruiting and a sort of an overall update of what's happening with football team and stuff with Franz. We've got a big week. Rob and I are going to be with you all week long as Buddy is in the Arctic. He's doing research,
weather research
on weather balloons in the Arctic, because he's just taken on this new thing. But not to worry, Rob and I will ferry you through. Welcome to the big show. We'll be with you right after this.
For Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind, because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
But did somebody say the best Open in all of online sports ever is the Open that has been around, I think, probably for about 6 or 7 years, maybe longer. Anyways, I'm not Buddy Martin, if you're wondering, and he isn't either. And the guy below me certainly isn't. He's Kyle Curtis. Kyle, welcome to the big show. It's been a while, Coco Ka. How you been, my friend? And congratulations on officially graduating from the University of Florida, and welcome to the Suck Now You Work. So Kyle, how you doing, my friend? Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm happy to finally be back on the show, and hopefully I can start being a weekly guest again now that I'm post college life, being able to get into a more of a concrete week to week schedule.
And you can start pandering for jobs and stuff like that online, which is cool, right?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I don't know.
You don't know. You're like, maybe I should just go back get my graduate degree, right?
I'm like, is there any more classes I need to take?
I miss a couple. Can I just come back? No, Kyle, congratulations. I know you worked hard.
Thank you.
It's really, really cool to see you succeed, and I know you're going to be successful. And we are always honored to have you here on the Buddy Martin Show and our morning show with this guy. Over to my, I guess it's to my left if you're looking, I don't know, right or left. He's over here or there, Rob Browne. Kyle, we just wanted to dip in a little bit tonight and talk. We got, Loren and these guys coming in. Obviously, you're staying abreast of hot topics. Things are going on in Florida Gator football world. We've added the Longhorns today, and we've added the Oklahoma Boomer Sooner. We were having this discussion before we went on the air. Where I said to Rob, "What's a Sooner?" I think I know historically, but I was like, but then I'm trying to think of the mascot. But it's like a dude, and I'm like, how's this Boomer Sooner work or whatever? And he gave me a little bit of history lesson there about the covered, wagons, Rob?
Conestoga wagons.
Conestoga wagans. Yeah, I didn't know if you knew the history there, Kyle.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, that with the SEC is, it's going to be new. It's more so now that I look at it, the SEC is my new nickname, the top 25, because that's what it seems like. But as long as for the next month, I'm going to be doing I'm probably going to put out 2 teams a week leading up to the kickoff. I'm going to do a breakdown of each SEC school.
That's
and then
right.
the way that I release it will be a ranking system. So, for example, if Vanderbilt's last or something along those lines, then they would get the first in-depth preview. So I'm excited to kind of do more research on all of them because, I mean, for the most part, we know our opponents each week, SEC-wise, in the past, but it's going to be cool to be able to dive a little deeper into, Texas and Oklahoma and see how, those guys operate on a week-to-week basis. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be unique. Obviously, Florida's got the crazy schedule that everyone seems to be talking about. But other than that, a lot of new guys coming in. I know that last year, I think it was last year. Yeah, I went to the Cormani McLean signing.
Yes,
drove all the way. Drove all the way down. Drove all the way down there, 99%, and ended up doing the classic, throwing the hats around, all that jazz. Ended up being a good story in itself, though, going down there. But yeah, no, he apparently is fitting in really well with all the teammates there and does kind of fit in like a glove. Came in a little underweight, so the nutritionists are, getting him up to speed with all of the conditioning and stuff like that. But he's been helping recruiting, stuff like that. So just getting the 2025 class kind of set. I've seen a lot of rankings come out for that. We're kind of low on there, but that's just because we don't have a lot of recruits yet. So yeah, a lot of good stuff, a lot of off-season stuff. Kind of just finding ways to fill the blank space until this season kicks off.
Who do you know about the 3-star tight end Tyree? What was his name?
I saw a video on it, and the comment, the caption was "just throw it up." So I would assume that I saw a few highlights on him, and it looked like Billy Napier was trying to find a Kyle Pitts of his own. Maybe with some of those big lengthy guys that you can kind of red zone targets you can throw to, but a lot of it with tight ends too is being able to block and having those big guys who are able to move fast and being able to get lateral down the field always helps, especially on the college game. So that's basically all I got right now. And then obviously the Olympics coming up, and I think that we got USA Soccer as we're talking right now.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the trials that have come up with Loren when he gets on the show here in a minute. Rob, you've been around long enough, like 7 months where you've been with all of us Gator guys, and you've been sort of immersed. What do you think, sort of just hearing about, adding this tight end, sort of a him-haw 3-star, whatever. And I'm going to bring in Buddy Martin right now, who just joined us here. He only has just a minute. Buddy, how are you? Welcome to the show. He's on location. We don't know where.
All right. Look at that background.
He is
Eastern Siberia.
Witness protection. Buddy, welcome to the program. This is your show. We're on with young Kyle Curtis, now graduate alum of the University of Florida. Buddy, how are you up there in North Carolina somewhere?
Yeah, it's beautiful out here. I've been up in the mountains, and we're just outside of Waynesville. Now, I have a weak signal because I found out that Starlink
looks
get
good.
One person on.
You look great,
well,
buddy.
But it's
better than ever.
Because a couple of people online here that it could go off any minute, so I will not stay long. You say good evening, everybody, and Rob, thank you for hosting this week. And
thank you,
and Kyle, we hope to see you, Kyle, more than one time. Good to have you.
I know. I was just saying. I'm excited to get back on here. I need to hop on the morning show with you guys. I would love.
Yeah,
I would love to call in, do whatever.
I need to get your contact information because we
we
love having look. I've got kids from 24 to 35, 4 of them. So we got all the demographics, the age group. We are absolutely going to do that tonight. After the show.
Once again, Rob is recruiting my people. So
taking over.
Hey, I'll send you anything you want.
We like it because Rob is also part of this family.
There you go. It's one big family.
That's right.
So, buddy, we're just talking about Billy adding tight end, or not Billy, but the Gators adding the 3-star tight end. And I was about to discuss, does that help or really do anything right now other than, sort of just I guess hard to get too excited. You never know the kid could be, show everybody, but that's not really going to make or break any sort of decision making about what's happening. I'm still concerned that there's no offensive coordinator. I'm still concerned that there's, sort of we've yet to sort of see what kind of scheme we're going to get, but we don't really know right now until we're going to get, sort of the dead season. So, what are your takes on any of that stuff with how's Billy ranked in this off season as far as getting, ready for this, gauntlet of one of the toughest schedule may turn out to be one of the toughest schedule in the history of college athletics or college football.
Well, that's been the storyline. Rob and I have talked about it a lot, and actually it is a challenging schedule, but isn't that what you want? Don't you want to play the best? All you Gator fans who complain about having the directional schools on the schedule. I mean, if I'm a player, I want to play against the best every week. Yeah. And it's going to be a challenge. But let me tell you something. I said this before. It's not new, Kyle. You think it was easy for Ray Graves in 1967 after Steve Spurrier graduated? His schedule was hard too. It depends. It's all relative. It is a very, very vicious schedule. But you know what? If they can remain standing and they can be there at the end, which, by the way, this is not the Bataan Death March, because that's a terrible comparison. But when they get to November, Kyle and Rob, it's going to be who's last man standing.
Yeah.
With taking the bruising and the beating of the SEC, you have to be able to have endurance. Let's see who's there. I like the fact that we've got two quarterbacks. That's always good because, if you lose a couple of those guys, you're in trouble. I don't know the tight end except what I read about him. I know Billy likes to use a lot of tight ends. I believe that's 4 or 5 now, Kyle. Is that what they got? No.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's more of a red zone guy. He's not going to be a guy that's probably going to go for 150 yards like a Kyle Pitts, but he's a red zone and blocker guy. And Billy likes to throw those guys in there with his, his sets on 3rd and 1 where you want to run Montreal right up the middle. But I mean, kind of what Buddy was saying, the way that the schedule is formatted, especially for SEC teams, I think it benefits us. And along with the 12-team playoff, back when, all these guys were, the Urban Meyers of the world, back at the Steve Spurriers of the world, they couldn't afford to lose a game or two during the season. You lose an early game and slip up 1 week, your national championships could be out the window. With this new 12-team format, I don't know if we're going to get the exact and we're not going to get results maybe this year, but I could see in the next few years we're going to see 2-3 win teams being in that Final Four at the final stretch because they are some of the best teams. So I think, especially for the SEC, that helps us too.
Hey, Kyle, thank you so much. I know we just got you for a minute tonight. I just want to let everyone know you can read Kyle Curtis on GatorbaitMedia.com. You can check out. We're still running a special right now. And I know you were on a tight schedule. I really appreciate you coming on. Check out Kyle there. Clicking on that QR code right there.
Coming up, Brenden.
Yeah, we just discussed it before you got on. Yeah, Kyle's going to be launching his new series soon. Check it out. Click on that QR code. Kyle, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. We'll have you on regular and bring you on the morning show. Kyle Curtis.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it, guys. And pass my information to Rob, and we'll be in touch. And I look forward to coming on the morning show. Buddy, have a great trip. Live it up there. And you guys have a great rest of your night. And happy 4th.
All right, you too.
Happy Independence Day, Kyle.
That's
Congratulations
on Happy Independence Day.
Screw the British. All right, thank you, Kyle.
Buddy,
I just wanted to say if I could, and I can't.
Sure, show. You can do whatever you want.
Well, I just ran into a couple of Gators today here in Waynesville. First of all, I was parallel parking in a very small place trying to get in.
You were parallel parking? I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Just wanted to get that clear.
Yes, I did.
It
was small space, but if I could finish the story.
Okay.
I mean, small space, and I was backing in, and an old guy and his wife walked by. I saw my Gator bait hats on the dash. I went, chomp. Got in the car in the front and drove off and they got me a spot. I pulled right in. And then I went inside this restaurant. I think it's called Boo Jim's, but I have to get the name up. It's very well known around here in Waynesville. And a guy wearing a Gator logo came out, and I stopped him. I said, "I'll go Gators." He said, "Oh yeah." And I said, "You Gator? Oh yeah." Well, my father was like number 2 Bill Gator for years. He chaired he sponsored 2 chairs in the business school. So, he was a serious dude. And we've been lifetime Gators. And then he said, I'm good with everything. His name was, I want to get it right. I think it was, where's Don? Flammers, I believe, Flammers, from Clearwater, and a really sharp guy. And he said, I'm good with everything else. The one thing I'm concerned about is the stadium being rebuilt. What will happen to it? I want to wait and see on that. And that'll be a big topic of discussion. There's a lot of people out there like him. And he said, by the way, I am so excited about this season. And I think that's the thing that Gator fans are. Get 12 teams in the playoff, right? And you get a chance to see great players in the SEC, 2 new schools. How much better could you get than getting Oklahoma and Texas here? And you got great games every weekend, including August 30th. So I think Gator fans, I believe, Rob, and Francis on it, he can tell you, are beginning to get a little bit of a little juice, and you'll see that come to the fore in August. And by the way, I hear we have a team getting ready to go to Dallas, Fort Worth for SEC Media Days, right?
Oh, yeah. You're looking at the team right here.
Oh,
wow. Ready to roll.
I got my tickets today. Oh, Frank, we can't hear you, Franz. You might be on mute. You're muted, Mr. Beard. But if it doesn't work, Franz, you can always come back in. Yeah, we've got our tickets. This is team Dallas. We're gonna go and let it happen. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, I just want to throw something out here.
There you go, Franz.
Franz, I want to throw something out for the Florida fans. I did some research on this, and it was really Philip Marshall, my friend, Auburn Undercover. He's been writing now 55 years. And, buddy, I think you and him are the 2 oldest living writers in the South. He was on the Skywriters tour. He's Benny Marshall's son. You know, Philip.
Yeah, he was on not the first. He was not on the first iteration. He was on the second one.
Yeah.
His father was on the first, Benny.
Yeah. But a ton of respect for both of them. But he put some research out, so you always have to give credit where it comes from. Think about this. In the last 4 years, there are only 8 colleges in America who have had 25 or more players earn a spot on an NFL roster. There are 8. Those schools are Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Michigan, Ohio State, and Notre Dame. Guess who the other 2 are?
Florida and FSU.
Auburn.
No.
War Eagles.
Yeah, it's Florida and Auburn are on that list, despite both of them having 3 consecutive, crappy seasons. Auburn's in the worst run in 74 years. In the stock market, we call it a dead cat bounce. And I'm not saying this again just because I'm on the show, but I've studied this stuff. I study trends. Florida right now on the blue chip index. This is a very important thing. And we talked about this the other day. On the blue chip index, when you look at the Gators, okay, there are 16 schools on the list. That means you have 50% or more of your roster is 4- and 5-star players. Well, we're going to put it in perspective. Number 1, Ohio State, not surprisingly, at 90%. Bama 2 at 88%. Georgia 3 at 80%. 4th is Texas A&M. In spite of all the transfers out, 79%. 5 is Oregon at 76%. Oklahoma 6th at 73%. Texas 7th at 72%. Now, second half of the list. LSU is sitting there at number 8 at 70%. Notre Dame 9 at 67%. Clemson 10 at 64%. Here comes your Gators, 10th at 63% on that list. Miami at 61%, Penn State 61%, Southern Cal at 59%, and then Michigan, the reigning national champion, is 15th at 56%. And Auburn, as bad as things have been, Brian Harsin did not recruit for 2 years, is at 53%. So technically, no team on that blue chip list since they started keeping it has ever won the national championship. Now you've got all these analysts, some pretty smart guys that are going to suddenly be able to coach. Special teams get very little love in practice. Now, Florida, you pick the school. and Billy Napier is a detail guy. I know they got a tough schedule, but you join the Marine Corps, you know you're going to have a tough life, but you know what you're signing up for. I just see, I'm with you. Confidence grows, but you're at 63% on the blue chip index. That's how good a program Florida is as bad as things have been for them and Auburn. They're still in the blue chip index, the Sweet 16. There's only 16 schools that can say that. So something to think about.
Well, Rob, you know money. You know money. You got a lot of rules. I know you follow in the markets. And I got one for you, just a little tip for you before I leave. I'm going to do that a couple minutes. Fran's here now. And I would say this. Remember, Florida's down this year, right? A little bit. There's a rule called, you know this, Franz, this rule, Brenden. Buy low and sell high.
Yep.
Hello.
Correct.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I've been in Buy Low before. It's a great supermarket chain up in North Carolina, Tennessee.
That's right. I met his sister. Hey, buddy, thank you for joining the show. Thanks for joining us from Witness Protection. Somewhere in the woods.
Yeah, thanks for doing it, guys.
Somewhere deep in the woods. He's Buddy Martin.
Buddy, thanks for letting me come on, man. This is awesome.
Somewhere in the backwoods of Dakota, there lived a young boy named Rocky Raccoon.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Well, buddy, yeah, I want a coonskin hat. Well, see, he just Irish goodbye. That was it. His straight Irish goodbye on his part. He didn't even say goodbye. He just walked out. Buddy, did you just leave us? Wait, I think you would. Say goodbye. Where are your manners, young man? Just at least say goodbye to us. Nothing. You know what? You know
an
what?
Irish goodbye.
I love you. The hell with you. You're fired. All right, you're done. He's off his own show. Thanks. He's Buddy Martin. Franz Beckler. Franz, respond to what Mr. Browne just said here. I thought that was very interesting because I had read some stuff about this blue chip index this morning. What do you think as far as Florida ranking? Is it accurate, or do you think they're a little high?
I think it's accurate because I think it's taken Billy Napier the last 2 years to get Florida back to that point where they are at 63%.
You nailed it. Nailed it, Franz. And that's exactly what it is.
And here's the second part of something that Rob was alluding to. As of last Tuesday, there are now unlimited assistant coaches.
Yep.
All those people who said, well, Florida doesn't have a special teams coordinator. Guess what? We're going to have one this year. In fact, we may end up with 3 special teams guys, a punt team coordinator, a field goal coordinator, and a return
Didn't
game.
they just add like another assistant special teams coach? I thought
a holding coordinator, a long snap coordinator,
and someone to call just punt team would be great.
That's 6 right there.
You can only send 10 guys out on the road to recruit. That's fine. They don't care. You don't need more than 10 out there. But it's unlimited on the field coaching now. So all these analysts and people have been saying, well, what the hell is Billy Napier doing with all these analysts? Well, guess what? Here's what they're doing. He's been preparing for this because he's been knowing what's going to happen. It was not a question of if it's going to happen, but when. And now he's got his team in place. Let me give you a little scenario that's going to happen, and this will ring true with a lot of people. Okay, you're going to have Billy Napier, who definitely coordinates the offense. He's got a guy named Joe O'Hara, who Graham Mertz swears by, who's going to be the coaching him on the quarterback stuff. He's got Dan Enos. Dan Enos, if you look at a guy named Dan Lefevre, he was a dual threat quarterback at Central Michigan. The same time Florida had this Tebow guy, Tim, whatever his name is.
Who's that?
Yeah, who is that? This guy put up numbers.
I'm not aware.
This guy put up Tebow-like numbers as a dual threat quarterback. Guess what DJ Lagway is? A dual threat quarterback.
Yeah.
So guess who's going to have his own personal caddy, coaching him up? What this is the really cool thing about it that people don't realize is these guys, these freshmen who normally don't get a lot of attention, they stand around a lot. They're going to have coaches, live coaches, coaching them up. Florida is one of the teams that was best prepared for this. It's one of the reasons the Gators are going to be much better this year, better coached, better results. And all you got to do is look at what Billy did. He said he was going to bring an Army in. He said he was going to change the culture. He's doing both of them. And Florida, even Phil Steele says Florida may be the most improved team in the SEC. Now, he still predicts them to be 10th, but you look, the other 9 teams ahead of them are all in the top 25 or so. So yeah. Florida, everybody's fearful about that schedule. That's the whole thing. It's the back end of the schedule. But here, I can tell it would not shock me for Florida to be 6-0 going into the Georgia game.
All right, Franz, let me say something. You made a great point talking about the special teams coordinator. I look at things. Here's the thing. I am paid in my other job to, if the dress makes me look fat, I've got to tell you.
You wear a dress in your other job?
No, but I'm saying I'm a truth broker. You have to be honest. If you hurt people's feelings, you hurt their feelings. That. I'm harder on my own school than I am anybody, and I'm just as hard on any school. But you nailed it. Think about that Utah game. How important, how disastrous were the special teams and not having the right number of guys on the field. If you'd have started your season off on the road better, and those kids, 18 to 22, nowadays 30 years old with the portal, you got guys been there 8 years. Think about if they'd have started off right. Special teams are a third of every game. I've gone in the locker room before the game. Y'all have too. Coaches back in the day, they'd need to rush for 250. We need to throw for about 150. Hold the other team under 80. Special teams, bam, bam, bam. Kick it here, pin them here. Special teams, it takes special players to play on special teams. And that's why Florida, if Phil Steele, he looks at 200-day moving averages. You look at all the minutia and you sort it out, it's details. And when we had Tyler Siskey, who's a good friend of Billy Napier's, on the show with us a week ago Friday, wow. He was with him at Alabama. He knows him in ways that I don't. If Tyler's saying the guy can coach, I think what it is, I think people are afraid to go out on a limb and say Florida could be good because they've got, as Roman Harper calls it, logo fever. They're looking at that gauntlet at the end. But guess what? All those teams have got to do their part. You're automatically assuming that everyone on that schedule is going to be just as good as they're supposed to be. And we know that ain't going to happen.
Guys, I want you to think about this too. The Utah game, very, very winnable. Florida should have won that game. No question about it. Florida should have won the game. Didn't.
Yeah.
The Kentucky game, Florida should have won that ball game. The Gators gave it away in the first quarter and then couldn't stop the run after that. Should have won that game. Even though it's a 19-point loss, that's a game Florida should have won. Arkansas should have won it. Missouri should have won it. Florida State, if Mertz doesn't go down with an injury, there's no question Florida kicks Florida State's butt. Florida almost won that game. Almost won that game with a guy who's probably, where is he at right now? The Western Walla Walla School of Welding, right now.
Yeah, brothers, sisters of the blind and poor, I believe.
He got the Charlotte Homeless Shelter. That's where he is. But
very clean city, I might add.
Very clean.
The Queen City is clean.
Max Brown's going to be a good quarterback. He was not ready for prime time, and he was thrown into prime time. So
I agree with that, Franz.
Here's my point, though. If you just take the Utah, Arkansas, and Missouri games, Florida's 8-4, and we're not having this discussion about, oh boy, this Billy Napier guy. I run into every single week. I run into people who say Billy Napier can't coach, and I asked them. I said, "Well, let me ask you this: how many millions of dollars did you make last week?" He said, "Well, I didn't." I said, "Well," I said, "does that mean that you're incapable of making money, or you just didn't have the right opportunity?"
Yeah.
And he says,
Correct.
Well, I could make money. I said, well, Billy Napier hasn't had the right opportunity in his first 2 years. He's finally got an SEC roster on hand. And now you look at the things that are going to supplement that roster, which are the added coaches in there, the added experience in there. Florida went from last year, the number 14 team in the SEC in terms of experience, to Phil Steele has Florida the 6th most experienced team in the SEC. Okay, from 14 to 6. That means there's been a drastic improvement in terms of experience. And what do we know about experience? You win a lot more games with experienced people than you do with guys that are, let's say, a little wet behind the ears.
Yeah. Franz, I have a good friend, Loren. Hey, I'm going to throw this at y'all.
Loren is a good friend. You hit the nail
Loren's
on the
going to
head.
come on the show with us. But Stat Tiger, my friend, he's a homicide detective. He is the most unbelievable analyst of breaking down, predicting games and everything. He's been doing it for 36 years. Unfortunately, over 350 homicides he's had to solve. But the way he does football, he has a metrics. And one of the things he looks at is the number of starters, guys who have started 20 or more games on your roster, the number of guys who started 30 or more games on your roster, okay? You start looking at that and the experience. And Loren, I called it, Roman Harper was on sidelines with us a couple of weeks ago. He and Cole Kubelik did that great show, Read and React, and they were talking about that new SEC schedule. And he said Cole's, caught up, he got logo fever. You start looking at that Florida schedule. I'm not saying Billy Napier's reinventing the wheel, but I pointed out Florida's 63% on that blue chip index, which puts them at 10th in the country. If you're not on there, no one that's not on there has ever won the national championship in football. As an outsider who knows a lot more than I ever knew about Florida, I'm learning a ton. And that's what I love about this show. We learn from everybody. It's hard to bet against a program that has that kind of talent. And one thing about Florida that's different, the greatest turnaround in Gator history was 1979, Charlie Pell's first year. They were 0-10-1. Next year, they're 8-4, and they beat Maryland, I think, 23-22 in the Citrus Bowl. Of the 22 starters on that field that night, 11 of them were high school quarterbacks. And they played all kind of different positions, but it's hard. And I talk to a lot of people, they'll go, no way Florida goes 3-9 or 4-8. Question is, how are they going to be standing when they get to that gauntlet at the end? And it's a war of attrition. And now, if you don't get a bye in the first round and you play in your conference championship, boy, you could be playing 17 games. I'll just say this, walk-ons are more important than they've ever been.
Loren, what did you react to that before I by the way, welcome to the show, dude. I haven't seen you forever.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hello, Loren. Hello.
Yeah.
No, welcome to the show.
I mean, I'm gonna go on the, I think you and I have talked about this. I got them around 7 wins.
Yeah.
There's some winnable games. I think it's more about perception, though, when you talk about Billy Napier. It's about how does it look? Yeah. And, we mentioned Missouri. We mentioned Arkansas. It just didn't look good, and that's where I think that Billy Napier's got to take the next step is, football is a game of kings and savages, and they got to look like they're trying to go out there and kick people's teeth in. And just so many times, there were just so many head scratches that you're like, what? How does that happen? You got 1 million people with a Jordan shirt walking around the Hefner Center. How do you have 13 people on the field, 10 on the field? You don't know that you got a first down. You say that you got a player that's in charge of getting the field goal unit out at the end of the game. I mean, just things. You say you're in a weak rotation against Missouri when the formation was to the field. Anybody that knows where the hash marks are on the field know that, why would you be in a weak rotation if their best receiver is to the field? But I digress and say that I got them winning 7 games. I think that, but it's the right games. They can't go out and lay an egg against Miami. They, for goodness sake, cannot lose to UCF. So even if they would lose to Miami, lose to UCF, pull an upset against Ole Miss, somehow get past LSU, go up to Tallahassee, and get a win against the Noles, would it be by that time, what is the perception of this football team? And the sad thing about it is, I don't know what Miami is going to have. I don't know what UCF is going to have, but I do know they got two kind of special kids at that QB position. And if Florida does not get them on the ground at the right times, then it could be interesting. So, I mean, like Rob said, UCF will be a little deficient up front, but the way Gus Malzahn, he kind of, puts you in that situation, and you look up and that zone play comes out the back door and you don't really need the lineman anymore. So it's one of those things where, they got to find a way to play sound assignment football and get people on the ground. I think offensively they'll be in good shape. I think they got a great trigger man at quarterback, but they got to find a way to get people on the ground. And that's going to be the key throughout all 12 games.
Yeah. I got two words for you, Rob. Rob, and for Brenden and for Loren. It's going to be the difference maker. Ron Roberts. Last year, I think Florida's, I like Austin Armstrong, okay? And I understand that a lot of people think he is a bright, young coaching mind. But I think the move to the SEC last year was overwhelming for him. And so many of our defensive problems had to do with a young coach who has these great ideas, but doesn't really know how to implement the great ideas yet against the kind of personnel that you have. It's like, okay, Loren, you played ball at Northern Ohio. What may have worked in the Ohio Athletic Conference might not have worked if y'all had played Alabama. There's that possibility.
Come on, Franz.
I'm going out on a limb. I realize that. I'm going out on a limb.
Right.
And my point is this. What may have worked well at Southern Miss, all of a sudden you're now calling it. It's kind of like my old friend Jim Niblack used to say. I was sitting with him one day, and Jim coached in the NFL for 4 years with the Buffalo Bills. And I was with him at lunch one day with Jack Hairston, and this guy said, why don't they run the wishbone in the NFL? And Jim said, because you got defensive ends who can take the dive man, the quarterback, and the pitch man all by themselves.
Correct.
You don't have to have, you got a guy for the dive man, you got a guy for the quarterback, you got a guy for the pitch man. That's what it is in college ball, because you don't have that kind of skill and personnel. And I think that last year that Austin Armstrong was in there and really had not coached. I realize he did some grad work at Georgia for a year, and he was at Louisiana, and then he was at Southern Miss. But there's a big difference in that jump in personnel. Otherwise, when Southern Miss would play SEC teams, they wouldn't lose 86,000 to nothing, and get their paycheck and go home with it. So I think this year having Ron Roberts, that veteran guy that has been around at every single level, and he can be that difference maker. He can say, okay, Austin, let's, you come up with your wild ideas and I'll make it work, because I know what the personnel can do and what they can't do.
Yeah. Let me say this about Ron Roberts too. A little bit of forensic reporting. After a fire, detectives can go into a house if there are burned bodies, and it's amazing. Well, I'll say this for Ron Roberts. I followed his career back. He started at Delta State, went to Southeast Louisiana. He developed this thing called the creeper defense. Now, keep in mind that Auburn, the talent void between Auburn and Georgia and Auburn, Alabama, when Freeze took over, is the widest it had been in 42 years. I know that program. He had the Auburn defense with no help from the offense. The offense last year was about as productive as the Ukraine economy. Okay. No help at all. And he had Auburn within the last drive against Georgia and the same thing against that vaunted Alabama offense. Okay. Ron Roberts, I hated that he left Auburn. But, I mean, I understand it was a good time to – Freeze wanted to get more of his guys in there. But you're right. He's a veteran. He is a hard ass. He does not play around. But also what Loren said something a minute ago, your schedule. People will say, I'm going to work out, when I feel like it. No, you got to feel like it. When I feel like it, I'm going to work out. No, you got to work out to feel like it. I think by the time Florida gets to those last 5 games, what's going to apply is it's not the doing in life that's so bad, it's the dreading. Logo fever, man. Cure it. Just play one chapter at a time. How big? I want y'all to answer this one because I'm out of my pay grade. But how big is that Miami game, August 31st? 90,000 people in the swamp. You can't sit there with your arms folded and go, they suck. I mean, think about it.
Well, Miami does suck, but that's the side of it.
Well, I mean,
does Miami freak you out though? I mean,
Yeah.
Hold on,
talk about that roster.
Hold on, does Miami freak you out? Every week freaks me out. So
Yeah,
I mean, does it freak you out as much as it does, playing Georgia?
Well, I'll say.
Let's break down the cane.
Well, hold on. Yeah,
I'll say this. If there's 2 more words that I think, and Rob can echo this, and Franz as well, is Turner and Bridges. And if you have another name, you'd have a law firm. But I think that Asa Turner and Taquezi Bridges will – I mean, the one thing about the creeper is you have to have safety play because they got to be able to come downhill and fill the void and make plays. And for the last 2 years, Florida just has not had that on the back end. And I think that that's going to be key, having those 2 guys that have played multiple snaps in the Pac-12 in big games against high-quality talent in space, which is what the Pac-12 has, I think will pay dividends, for that creeper defense. I do think they'll be improved on defense, but they've got to find a way to get all 3 levels of the defense on the same page in key situations. In the last 2 years, they've just been devoid of that.
DJ Douglas, I'm going to tell you right now, is going to be one of the 5 most impactful transfers in the Southeastern Conference this year. People don't realize, where he started out? He was a 5-star recruit at Alabama, and he transferred to Tulane. And then, guess where he is now? He's at the University of Florida. He's a former 5-star recruit, and he is of all the people that left Tulane this year, they said the 2 people that are going to hurt was the quarterback, Pratt, who went to the NFL, and DJ Douglas. They say those 2 guys are the ones that will hurt that program. They say DJ Douglas is a guy that when he hits people, guess what they do? They go down. And that's what Florida Loren, you're more analytical than I am. By light years, okay? The difference between Florida, that last level, and the linebackers, that in-between level, that's where Florida got killed last year. Florida got killed because you had inexperienced safeties who had no idea what they're doing, and their whole thing was, well, let me make sure I don't get beaten deep. So it reminded me a lot of Ohio State versus Florida in 2006 when they're playing their safeties 33 yards off the line of scrimmage. And so all Florida does, they keep dumping the ball off to Cornelius Ingram. Cornelius Ingram caught 9 passes that ball game. Percy caught, I think, 8. And they were all little dump passes. And because you can't beat Florida, they were so cognizant of getting beat deep by Florida's speed that they were playing 33 yards off the line of scrimmage. They're safeties. I think Florida's safeties last year were so cognizant of getting beaten deep that they're playing way too far off the line of scrimmage, and that no man's land in between the linebackers and the corners, I think, just absolutely ate them alive.
I want to ask y'all both about the Florida front 7, 2-3 deep depth chart. because again, I talked to a friend of mine. They were in a national championship game and they had been preparing for an offense that was really fast, so much to the point where they could substitute faster on defense than the other team's offense could by about a half a second. It was at that point, 3 days before the bowl game, that they knew, they go, we got it figured out. And after the first couple of series, the players were coming off the field, getting on the headsets, talking to the defensive coaches and saying to them, man, coach, you were right. And they said, yeah, we tried to tell y'all, scared man ain't never want to fight. And it gets in our heads. But I'm not saying Florida's going to go 12-0, but I think that you look at that talent. You talked about Traquezy Bridges. I remember that kid. He's from Valley or Lynette, Alabama. They play damn good football over there in the Valley. That's really good, fundamentally sound football. Let's talk about, y'all know more, but we need to be talking about the Gator front seven, specifically the big uglies on the defensive line, because if you're 2 and 3 deep there, that creeper defense just causes all kind of problems for RPO offenses. That's what it's designed to do. Ron Roberts is a really good coach, and I hate that he's gone. But y'all got him.
Yeah. Well, Loren, let you react to, has Florida gotten better front seven this year? It's a conversation we had all last year. I think you alluded to it. Does it matter as much this year as it did last year? Considering, potentially if we see a Lagway package, touch on that, and then Franz after him.
Well, I think, I think one of the things that it's not necessarily about, yes, I do think Florida will get better up front on the defensive line. I mean, I think that, the one thing is, as you look at Florida as they're comprised right now, you just have had just not a symbiotic relationship between the front 3, 4, 5, depending on what front they're playing, and the linebackers. And the fact is that, you get somebody that's out of a gap or gets basically steamrolled on a double team, and now that linebacker has to run the hump. But I mean, you talk about guys like Kelby Collins. I mean, I think he's a star in the making up front. I mean, just some of the improvements that, like you said, just a year older. I just think they're going to be a better defensive unit. And, a lot of times with the creeper defense, you got slants, you got pinches, and then that guy fills in with that creeper from the second level. But you got to have everybody hitting the right gaps at the right time. And when you talk about schematically, the creeper defense is a great scheme, but all 11 guys got to be doing their job. And you got to have that special guy that when somebody does not do their job and I'm one-on-one in space, I got to get that guy on the ground. And just so many times last year, we just didn't see it. But, Florida's linebacker core is a little bit undersized. Obviously, getting Pup Howard gives them a little bit more size.
Yeah.
So the front seven is the key. And I do think they're at the point now where I would say Florida maybe has, and Franz, you can correct me, I would say in the interior, they probably have 4 to 5 guys they trust. But on the wings, they got about, on the outside, on the edges, they got about 4 or 5 guys they trust there, which if you got about 10 guys that you feel like can play meaningful football for you, I think you're going to be pretty good. Like I said, I mean, the schedule is daunting, but I would be shocked if this is not a 7-win football team with the improvements on defense. But, we'll see.
Here's what's going to make a difference. Joey Slackman. We talk about how back in the day when Florida had Ahmad Black, who was like the traffic cop back there on that 2008 defense, knew where everybody was supposed to be on every single play. But he wasn't the only one. You had Brenden Spikes in the middle. Wasn't the only one, though. You look at who they had on the front four on that team. They had smart guys and basically a traffic cop at every single level. This year, Joey Slackman, I think, will be that difference. I think last year they had some talented big guys in there. But Caleb Banks, for example, I thought a lot of times looked like a lost ball in the tall grass. But if you put somebody beside him that's sitting there saying, okay, Caleb, left, 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 get at that last second, you got him moving him to the right place at the right time because he sees what's going on. All of a sudden, now that defense starts looking a little bit better. And again, you get that bright guy with the right mindset in the middle and at linebacker. And then you get the guy on the backside, Asa Turner, as I'm told. Asa Turner is like, he could be nicknamed Univac, which is what I nicknamed Rob, because Rob can recite you line for line the movie The Mouse That Roared, which starred Peter Sellers back in 1959. He is Univac back there. And I know this because I talked to somebody who is very heavily involved, and they said this guy is so absolutely into it and sees the whole field and knows where everybody is supposed to be at every moment. And you got to have guys like that.
Yeah.
I don't, and this is where we come back to that old word experience that we didn't have last year. We did not have guys who were experienced enough to look at a field and say, okay, they're coming this way because this guy is this tight end is flexed out an extra 2 yards, and they got their running back flex another 2 yards out. They're coming this way. You got to have a guy that can recognize that.
And here's another point, and I'll just throw this out there because I'm always accused of not being positive. Two positives is the return of Justice Boone on the defensive line, I think will be key. And then on offense, Keon Zipper returns at tight end, who could be an absolute matchup nightmare and at multiple tight ends that Billy Napier likes to run. And I think he'll be kind of a favorite target for Mertz as well. So
what about the new tight end they picked up with they picked up somebody, the 3-star guy.
You'll see him in 25, 26.
25. I just want to make sure
he's
on the 25, 26.
No, I'm saying you won't. Yeah, I mean
you're not going to see him until next year.
I mean you got Boardingham and some of those guys coming back next year.
That was my next question.
Hayden is going to be more involved in the offense too at tight end, and you're talking about 6'7.5", 275 pounds. And he can run.
Yeah.
He's like having an extra tackle in there when you want to run the ball. But then you get a guy 6'7.5", 275 who can run. Oh my gosh. That's kind of hard to cover, isn't it?
Well, Brenden, Loren, you were referring to this about, to me, the best defensive coordinator I've ever seen consistently. He did it at multiple schools at Alabama, Clemson, Auburn. Brother Oliver, Bill Oliver, from Epps, Alabama, over in the Black Belt. 13 SEC championship rings, 6 or 7 national championship rings. He lived at Logan Young's house in the guest house when he was in Memphis coaching the Showboats defense. 5 years after the Showboats and the USFL were disbanded, 17 of those players were on the roster. Cool story being from Memphis. Dr. Sexton got my man Kyle Rote Jr., he said, hey, Jimmy needs a job. That's how Jimmy Sexton got in. He goes, well, he was suite mates in the dorm at UT with Reggie White. That's how that whole thing started. Bill Oliver, who is 79 years old now, I'm trying to get him on the show. Interchangeability. Every now and then you would see those Alabama defenses. Look at that 92 defense with Chris Donnelly. Used to sit with his dad at the touchdown quarterback club meetings. Antonio Langham from Town Creek. He didn't even get on the radar of recruiting until the playoffs of his senior year, okay? But you think about Chad Keys, big defensive lineman. Everybody knew everybody else's responsibilities and assignments. And I'm not comparing this to war, but my web guy has told me this, and I worked a lot at Fort Benning with these people. Everyone knows everyone's position for a lot of reasons, but when you do that in football, interchangeability – you remember Alabama with Brother Oliver would occasionally blitz 10 or 11?
Mm-hmm.
What you watch out on this creeper defense is it pushes the football, it pushes them out of their comfort zone. And if there's one thing Florida's always got a lot of, is athletes, and track and field is so big in the state of Florida. That's why if you're smart, you stay mainly within the borders Florida, but that's what's getting me excited. I mean, hell, we don't play Florida this year at Auburn. So, I mean, but I missed that rivalry, but we're going to play them.
Yeah.
I think about, and Franz, you said it, Ron Roberts would be cool to pick his brain because he has grown in his defense. When you put better personnel in there, that's what's going to be fun to watch. That's all I'm done.
Here's the thing he did last year at Auburn. You look at Auburn's defense the year before.
Yeah.
They were 4 first downs better, 7 points better per game. Okay.
Yep.
You get Florida those extra 4. One of the reasons Florida only averaged about 29 a game last year was because they couldn't get people off the field.
Yeah.
You get them off the field, you cut those first downs. A first down means 3 extra plays. So 4 first downs means that they got 12 extra plays on your defense.
Yeah.
You wear them down. That's 12 plays times 40 seconds. 480 seconds is what?
It's 8 minutes.
8 minutes?
Yeah.
8 minutes that your
Huge.
offense doesn't have the football.
Yeah.
So
that's huge, friends.
Yeah.
That is. See, Loren, again, you've got that analytical engineering type mind, but you start breaking it down in real time. And I think that we're looking at it. We're getting into some technical stuff. It's like talking about accounting or engineering with an accountant or an engineer, but I'm fascinated by that kind of stuff because there's a direct correlation between your 2 and 3 deep.
Mm-hmm.
The top, look, since 1963, there have only been 6 schools in the SEC that have won the SEC in football. We know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. Okay, in the last 14 years, Texas has only had 2 double-digit win seasons in football. In the last 14 years, Oklahoma has had 11 double-digit win seasons. Their bad years are 8-5 and 9-4, and then that 6 and 7 year, the first year of Brent Venables, when they lost their last 5 games, they lost 4 of them by 3 points each. You better watch out on Oklahoma.
I was at the Cheez-It Bowl for that.
I love Cheez-Its, by the way. I love those things.
But yeah, and I think that but like I said, when it comes down to it, it comes down to getting guys on the ground when you got to get them on the ground, and that is the key. And like I said, how they do it. It just has to get done for you to be a good football team.
I like that.
That's the difference. I mean, it is literally the difference between Kentucky and Florida over the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Is they have been able to find a way to get people on the ground on 3rd down. Then they can punish you in the running game the same way that Florida wants to do you, and then hit you over the top with some really good receivers. And you go from there. But, we were talking, I was on Shane's show the other day. Florida does not have the issues on offense, but I think it's exacerbated because they were so poor on defense. And Brendan's giving me that look because he thinks they stink up front.
You sound like you've been drinking the Kool-Aid. Someone's been in Gainesville a little bit too long.
But I'm going to tell you, it minus, yes, there was the debacle at Utah and there was the Kentucky game. But in a lot of ways, I think they held their own, and I think this year they're going to create some turnovers, give that offense some shorter fields, some opportunity to.
And you feel like the scheme is offensively is going to be ready to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, I do.
And take it down the field.
I do.
And score 6.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I mean, you got Trey Wilson. I mean,
I'm recording the show. Now. I'm recording the sound.
Hey,
right
I'm
now.
with you.
I'm gonna record you.
I'm a big fan of what they have on the outside. I think I'm one of the few people that thought, Montrell Johnson was the best back on the team. I mean, I like.
I know, but I go back to Loren. I'm not trying to interrupt you. I'm just saying for conversation purpose. I'm saying Rob asked the question. Front 7 defensively, and I know we're running out of time, and I want your and Franz's take. We can run just a few minutes long. It's fine, but offensively, have they gotten better up front? Offensively, are they better and stronger up front? And if they are, tell me why. And I want to go with Loren, then Franz.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna go with the one of the top transfer recruits. I don't know the young man's name. Franz, you can back me up when you talk about it, from USC. I think Austin Barber, being healthy, if he could stay healthy, is solid at either tackle position. He got that nasty. I was not a Kingsley fan whatsoever. I think Jake Slaughter is an upgrade at center. And, and then, Damian George moving back inside where he belongs at a guard. I think he's a Sunday afternoon player at guard. And I think I just think they're just better at talent. I mean, I just think that the upgrade in talent, they're a year older. And I'm a big Rob Sale guy, man. I've watched that offensive line. I've watched him coach them. He drives them. And I think he gets a lot out of them. And I think that's one of the most I think he's one of the more underrated coaches on the staff, because they have been kind of trying to plug and play some guys and things like that. But Austin Barber, in the spring, he and I spent basically every weekend at the softball field together, talking a lot of football. And I mean, that offensive line is a cohesive unit. I mean, he wears a hat that says 5 = 1. And I mean, he wears it a lot. And I think they've really bought into what they're trying to do offensively. They believe in it. And I was always told that, schematically, if it's sound and your kids believe in it, you're going to be pretty good on offense. So,
Franz?
I'll say this. It starts with Jake Slaughter in the middle, who is going to prove to be as smart as any center in the Southeastern Conference. I realized that last year against Utah, he was drowning. I'm telling you, he was drowning. But you look at him game by game by game, he was as improved a player as there was in the Southeastern Conference by the time we got to game 12. And it was just hard work and it's brains. And you got to have that guy in the middle who can get your people lined up. You could have 4 great offensive linemen, but if your center can't get you in the right spot at the right time, your offensive line sucks.
Correct.
And you got this guy there who really knows what he's doing. Brenden Crenshaw Dixon, I think, is going to move inside, and I think he's going to play right guard, because I think Austin Barber is going to play right tackle, where he was more comfortable and where he was really good as a couple years ago. I think Devin Manuel is going to play that left tackle, and they love that guy because he's 6'9" and he's got wingspan that goes forever. And a guy like that can clothesline people and get away with it. And you got to have a guy like that. I think Zandamela, who's the transfer in from Southern Cal, he's going to have an impact on that guard spot too. Najee Harris, really, really good prospect. I think he's still a year away. I think he's going to be, the second half of the season, I think he's going to be far better than he is in the first half of the season. He's still a guy that's still growing into his body, growing into, mind and body, getting him to symbiotically related to each other. I think he's going to be really, really good though. And they've just got the guys that can do it now. Fletcher Westfall, this kid that is a freshman this year, he's going to play this year. He's going to be in the rotation because he's just too much of a sponge. He just absorbs stuff. He's ready to go. It's up front. It's a line of scrimmage league, and if your offensive line can get the job done and keep your quarterback, who completed 73% of his passes last year, if you can keep him upright and breathing without getting his collarbone broken, again, that offense is going to hum. And as was just stated by Loren, Montrell Johnson is the best running back in this league. You watch the contact he absorbs and how he just breaks tackles and stuff like that. He's a guy that in the fourth quarter, if your offensive line is able to block, he is a punisher. And the guy that is going to also help in that running game, don't forget this freshman, Jaden Ball. Jaden Ball is 6'2.5". He's 238 pounds, and he can flat out move, and he's got dancing feet. You don't see guys like that with dancing feet, but there was this guy named Bo somebody who weighed, I think, about 235 or so, played at Auburn. You might remember him, Rob.
Vincent Jackson. Yeah, I remember.
Vincent. Yeah, Vincent. That was his name. Yeah, that's the ticket. Now I remember.
And this is
about 235 pounds.
Yeah.
And had dancing feet, and at the same time could hit you like a freight train.
Yeah.
And Najee Harris, remember, and this is the thing that speaks out about Najee Harris, and I know a lot of guys are naming names. If you don't have Damian George in that mix, you don't. I mean, you got to throw him in that mix. But Najee Harris is, quoted by Rob Sale as a freshman, conducted himself like a junior. So, Najee Harris is somebody that I think they feel like can play multiple positions if called upon and handles the weight of college football and all that goes into it really well for a young person. So kind of throw that in there as well.
I mean, one other thing, both of y'all, I mean, I know Brendan's going to take us off here in a minute. We'll be back on tomorrow night. But here's the thing. Florida right now is sitting there at like 15 or 16 in the SEC in recruiting. They're not going to end up 15 or 16. And a lot of schools are way out ahead getting commits, but we're starting to see what we saw 30 years ago. Guys are committing too early. They're getting a better NIL deal, and it means less than I can remember for an early commitment. But it's going to be fun. I want to get y'all tomorrow night, whoever's on here, and do a deep dive into the depth on the offensive line because
I want to go offense tomorrow.
Yeah, one of our smartest guests, Jason Caldwell, with Auburn Undercover, said, look around the SEC. You got 16 schools, got to have a starting 5. That's 80. He said there's 20, maybe 25 blue chip offensive linemen out there in the southeastern footprint. So it's developing. It's like Brenden, you, Franz, Loren, me, we can all go to the fresh market and spend $1,000 on halibut, Angus, aged beef, and free-range chicken. But if we leave it in the back of our truck in this heat for a week, it's not going to be developed. But if we got Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen at home when we get there, Wolfgang Puck, I think we're going to do all right. It's about development.
You can eat my halibut. I'm sorry, I'm not eating it.
It's over a fresh bed of risotto.
Listen, I'm quite the chef there, Rob. Just so you know, if we don't,
we're going to see about that in Dallas.
Yeah, we're going to see about that in Dallas. Loren, are you going to Dallas by chance?
I unfortunately will be. I'm actually, in light of all that's going on in the world, I will
Dayglow duty.
I will be on Capitol Hill during.
Yeah, that's right. So, doing your
pharmaceuticals is quite the.
Yeah, I'm sure. I thought
you had Dayglow duty.
Well, she's going. So
I'm officially welcoming Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC. So. Boomer Sooner and Hook'em Horns, you guys aren't shit until you do something in the SEC. You still haven't done a damn thing now. You're starting from zero. Your clock's reset. You got zero because you haven't done it in the SEC in my book, boys and girls. So welcome to the suck. You gotta bring your A game.
Is the SEC going to let
welcoming to the SEC?
Are they going to let Oklahoma softball girls throw the bats when they get a walk in the SEC? We're talking about coaches. Who's the throw the bat coach at Oklahoma? Who teaches that? That's what I want to know.
I hope they don't do that. Well, it's going to be fun, folks. I mean, God,
we're going to have
I'm hearing Kennedy's going to Texas.
That makes sense. She's from Topeka. That's straight shot.
Well, Oklahoma lost 10 senior starters. And that kind of throws a little wrench in that work. So I'm hearing she wants to work with Mike White at Texas, who is one of the greatest all-time fast pitch men's softball pitchers in history. I mean, one of the greats. And I understand she wants to work with him. And so if that's the case, More power to the Horns. Tim Walton, by the way, the Division D1 softball National Coach of the Year. Deserved it. And trust me when I tell you, as good as the Gators were last year, they're going to be better.
Yes, indeed.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. We are out of time. Always really good show tonight, actually.
Does anybody know what time it is?
Does
anybody really care? We all have time enough to.
You
may find yourself saying, "How did I get here?" The talking.
Yeah, well, when you're doing like 2 of these a day and everything else, you tend to be like, all right, it's time to go.
It's gonna be fun. We're ready to go in the man. Thank y'all for
Rob.
letting me come
If I tell Rob we have to get off early, it's like I've taken somebody's like presents away from them at Christmas. He's like, oh, so we're not gonna go like the entire day?
No.
I could talk the whole day. I'm like, I know, Rob. You could talk.
No,
I love you for it.
I love the hat, Brenden.
To shut him down. Oh yeah, the hat. This is Hewlett and Dunn, sponsor on the show. Check us out tomorrow morning, live, folks, with Rob Browne. We're gonna do more of this stuff. Rob, what are we talking about tomorrow?
Okay, Chris Lee, Southeastern 16 in the morning. Rodney Orr, Tyler Insider, Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline. We'll mix it up and try to solve all the world's problems before we go off the air. But appreciate everybody watching and listening.
Prediction.
Yeah.
You'll talk about football. I'm going out on a limb.
Just a little bit.
I'm going out on a limb, but I'm guessing football will be on the agenda.
Yeah. 1,468 hours away from the start, but who's keeping track?
You all know me well enough that I'll pretend to care about the other sports, but I really don't care. I want to talk about football. That's all I really.
I better see that hat on Media Row in Dallas. That's all.
This is the real. By the way, this is the real deal. This is
I better
real
see that
deal.
hat on SEC Network at some time that week.
Look at
this.
Okay.
I mean, we're not talking about this. This is ready. This is Dallas ready. I should put a Gator up here.
We got the Gator Chomp shirt from Hewlett and Dunn now. They sold out of them up in Memphis, and they're ordering more. It's awesome. You can pull that picture up, but it's going to be awesome.
Was it do like the Marlboro Man move?
Yes, sir.
You know who the original Marlboro Man was? Real quick, great trivia
No, I
question.
don't. Tell me, Franz.
Former Gator All-American punter who punted in the NFL and then was the place kicker for the Green Bay Packers, Don Chandler.
Oh, wow.
The original Marlboro Man.
Who wasn't a Gator? Huh? Nobody was.
All the smart, good-looking people are. What can I tell you?
What can I tell you? Franz, where can they find you? What do you got coming up for tomorrow on GatorbaitMedia.com?
I got a series of 10 things I'm thinking about throughout the SEC, some of which will actually include the Florida Gators. But we're going to be talking about why are some people like Athlon, I believe it is, that have Ole Miss number 14 nationally, they got to be out of their minds. Ole Miss at the end of the year, it's going to be Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas. Those are going to be the top 3 teams in the SEC. And don't be surprised if any one of those three, ends up being the number 1.
Lots of predictions here tonight. He's Franz Beard, a.k.a. the Iron Duke. Check him out on GatorbaitMedia.com and right here. Franz, thank you always for gracing us with your presence this evening.
Well, Brenden, all I got to tell you is you look like you were an extra on The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
I'll tell you right now, chicks dig the black hat. That's what I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't go white. Thanks to Hewlett Dunn. Thanks, Franz. We'll talk to you soon. He's Franz Beard. Loren, thank you so much for joining the show. You got anything you got writing about? I know we didn't catch up with Olympic trials, but maybe you join us tomorrow night. And we can
talk about a little bit tomorrow. Absolutely. No, just kind of starting to really dive into, kind of finishing up track. We'll do a little something on the Olympics when we get closer, maybe something to finalize the trials, something going to the Olympics. And then, I have to write my 7 reasons why I got 7 wins. So,
I like that. Lucky number 7 with all those 7s.
Yeah.
You little numerologist, you. Hey, really good to talk to you, Loren. Let's get together soon. We'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And we'll have some beers. Thank you very much. Bye, Loren. And Rob, what do we got tomorrow? One more time. Check this out.
We got Chris Lee, Southeastern 14 is going to check in from Nashville, Southeastern 16. And then Rodney Orr, Tyler Insider, and Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline. Plus, we'll do a lot of trivia and information indexes, lots of numbers and stats on all the SEC schools. We'll kind of do the opening monologue, the first 5 minutes. We'll kind of touch on all the latest news in the SEC because we're here for y'all. Without y'all, we'd have nobody to serve.
That's right. Rob Browne, host of the SEC Sideline Sports. Join us tomorrow for that. We say goodnight to Mr. Browne. Thank you, sir. And folks, that'll do it for me tonight. And always a thank you to Buddy Martin. I'm just sitting in one Brenden Martin. I know I look a lot like my father, but I always like to say goodnight and tell you quickly, I know those have hung on, but we want to tell you quickly about Renstar Medical Research, a local sponsor. They have been with us as I'm sort of looking for their graphic. It's in here somewhere, but I'll find it. But Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Check them out, renstarmedicalresearch.com. Been with the Buddy Martin Show for ages and ages, and we appreciate it. And of course, always, Meldon Law. They don't back down, official sponsors of the Florida Gators. You've got any sort of lawyering needs at all, you want to give these guys a call. They really know their stuff, and you can trust them. I know Jeffrey, I know his son, Carrie, and the really fantastic family, father-son deal, you know how we do it here. But we want to say thanks to Meldon Law. You can always go to meldonlaw.com. They won't back down, just like and never give up. Just get the graphic up before you do it. All right, that'll do it for me. You'll have me all week, unfortunately, but we will be back in the morning at 9 a.m. right here, same bat channel, and talking with Rob Browne, and then again tomorrow night with normal guests as our shortened week here on SEC Sideline Sports Network. I am Brenden Martin, and I really do appreciate all your support. Give us a like, follow, subscribe. It helps out the channel. It gives it the opportunity for us to continue to bring all of this content for you free of charge right to your device. With that, I say good night. I tip my hat. I think I'd tell you do it. I'm trying to tip it. Good night, everybody. And as always, go Gators.